Well, welcome everybody to another edition of our Life West Leadership Line. Today, I have a very good friend of mine coming to us from New York, Dr. John LaMonica. Welcome, John, to the Life West Leadership Line.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here, Ron.
All right. Well, listen, I'll give you a little history on Dr. John. Graduate of New York Chiropractic College in 1985, has been practicing for the last 35 years. John's been involved in politics. He's been involved in state associations, national associations. He's past president of Chiro Congress. It used to be called the COXA, Congress of Chiropractic State Associations. He's the immediate past president of the New York Chiropractic Council. Still, 35 years, still doing tremendous amount of work in his state. And John, we will get into the things that our New York Chiropractic Council has been doing, but I'm just so proud and so thankful of all the things that you've done for chiropractic. So just to start with.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, and I know how hard you work, but let's go into this. Let's just jump in because I know, you were featured in our magazine, our Life West magazine. I don't know if it was the last issue or the issue before that, but it talked about opioids and chiropractic and what New York was doing with that, right? So let's talk about that. To share with us, what your role, not just you. I know you've been at this. You're you along with others are in the front of it, but share what you've been doing in New York.
It's actually been nothing short of incredible, I have to say. New York is not an easy state, as well as many other states are not easy to get things accomplished, not just for chiropractic, but anything political, but especially for chiropractic. Considering the amount of manpower we have and money that we have in our profession. So this is not something that happened overnight. This is our long-term relationships that we have built over years and years and actually decades of what we've done and made our relationships and staying in the process and staying in the game. And what they say, persistence is everything. And you can't get frustrated. You have to stay. That's how the process works. So years and years of staying in the political arena, meeting with legislators, going to events, supporting these legislators, and continuing to meet them on their, most important, on their home offices, which is where we get the most done instead of up in the Capitol where it's really busy and everybody's running around. That's where you can really sit down, roll up your sleeves, and actually have face-to-face good conversations with these people. And they're good people, and they want to hear what we have to say. So during that whole period of time, we have been doing this. As you know, there's a national crisis on opioids. Mm-hmm. We know by our patients, the results we get, we know that people that have chiropractic care are much less likely to start any drugs or even especially opioids at that point. So what happened is that New York State recognized the problem as well as all the other states and national, and they formed a Senate opioid task force. We stayed on with them. We got to the chair of that committee, asked to be a part of it, and they welcomed us to give testimony at these hearings. So for the last several years, we've been part of these opioid task force hearings. We followed up with meetings in their local offices to have face-to-face to explain exactly what they were very interested. So in effect, and we were told directly by one of the legislators who was the chair of one of the committees, that said, directly related to our testimony, the governor's office passed a policy. They're going to form a Medicaid pilot program that includes alternatives and name-by-name chiropractic and basically acupuncture were the two they named specifically, which is unprecedented. I mean, this is huge for New York. I know other states have it. We actually are part of Medicaid, as they say, but we're not funded in the state of New York. So there really isn't coverage for chiropractic.
Yeah. But what's so cool about it is that, when you look at that, and I know a lot of us, you're included in Medicaid, right? And for those that don't know what Medicaid is, it's health care or sick care for, people under a certain economic bracket, you know, and they can't
income level, under a certain income level.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to be part of it, but not be funded by it, right? You know, it's kind of like come to the party, come to the dinner party, but there's no food for you, right? And
Exactly.
but it's really cool that you stay persistent in this, and you're working in this to make, you know, the changes that should make happen. This pilot program that's going on, which is huge. I mean, people have to get this. It's huge. We all know that chiropractic, you know, can help people, and we know why they go on opioids, you know, in the first place, right? You know, from some kind of injury, pain, whatever it might be. And we know how chiropractic can work with that, you know, and the magic, you know, and I don't want to say the magic, it is magic, you know, I think the body's magical, but how chiropractic works so well. Tell us what the pilot is going to be about or is about.
Sure. Well, one of the biggest populations of the opioid crisis is the low income population, which they recognize, which is why they are focusing on the Medicaid population. And again, we had requested a call with the Department of Health, which is what it's going through, of New York State, to have some input and just have an initial conversation. And again, you know, we were concerned how it would turn out, the reception we would get, and it was better than we ever expected. They were so gracious, they were so open, they wanted our input. They were at a point of saying, we're moving this forward, we want to get this done by January of this coming year. And our ears are open, help us however you can. So it was really a great call. And you know, they asked us, what did we see? What were our concerns? And the concerns, of course, were to make sure the program was set up in a way where it wasn't rushed, where it didn't say, let's see after a week or so that you saved the world. And it was really phenomenal that one of the gentlemen actually stated, he goes, I agree with you 100% because we've shot ourselves in the foot before where we didn't give enough to make a good determination. We went through this program wanting to get results, looking to get results, and not putting in place the proper channels to give the people that are participating the time that it takes to get a result that we wanted. So they were totally open. There's nothing in stone as yet. They actually asked us to send them information. So we've already gathered research articles, information, time frames, things like that we are getting to them on a regular basis so that we're keeping in contact, and we're looking forward to our next call with them.
That's great. That's great. So let's talk about the relationship, you know, with chiropractic and, you know, opioids, obviously, right? Because they, you know, your group, the council, that's who did it, right? Went over and talked with your legislators and got involved in this study, right? And you had to show the relationship between chiropractic and opioids, right? So let's talk about that. You know, how, you know, the connection with chiropractic and opioids.
Well, I think to start off, as you know, there have been many studies that have been put out showing that when patients with any kind of injury or pain initiate treatment with a chiropractor first, it's shown that their pain response is better, their satisfaction level is much better than if it's initiated with allopathic means, and the financial aspect of it is significantly less. Some studies say up to 40% less when initiated first by a chiropractor. Doesn't mean that they didn't get other care in the realm. We want to work together. There's patients that need that working together. But when it's initiated under chiropractic care, then all those things happen. So in that situation, we already know that in our offices, we see the responses people have, that they don't go on to not even opioids, but prescription drugs. We want to keep them off prescription drugs if we can. When they're necessary, of course, they need them. But we want to keep them off as much as possible, and definitely not leading into the more potentially dangerous opioids and stronger drugs.
Right. And, you know, and an interesting thing, John, people, you know, I think our, you know, mostly chiropractors, there could be family members, there could be some public, obviously watching this. And, you know, when you look at the cascading effect, people think just, well, opioids, but it starts someplace. It usually starts below opioids. and then it climbs up. That's not working. That's not working. And then then they get into the opioids, and the addiction starts. And then, of course, the statistics that show from opioid use into heroin and all kinds of other hard street drugs when they're no longer given the opioids, right? And the cascading effect on a family, the cascading effect on society, it's intense.
The residual damage, even for the people that aren't on that. So let's go into it a little bit. Let's not getting too scientific. Let's get into the science a little bit.
Please.
Because this is really key. And the whole process starts with something called the reward centers of the brain. This has been documented by several experts in the field. The reward center in the brain primarily focuses in the midbrain, but it's also other parts that are interrelated, as we all know. One of my good friends and council members, Dr. Anish Bajaj, has been working with an expert in the field, Dr. Ken Blum, and they've come up with many research articles with what is called reward deficiency syndrome, or dopamine receptor deficiency. And we know that all has to do, and dopamine has to do with rewards. It has to do with balance of motion and, quietness and calmness, but primarily the reward response. So basically what's happening is when somebody does not satisfy anything that's not normal to them, which could be a nociceptive, which of course is a aberrant stimulus, I'm just explaining as you know for people, which triggers the brain to sense a pain response. If they have stress, if they have anxiety, that's causing the body to try to fix that in some kind of reward. When a reward comes in place, it overrides that sense of negativity, right? So what happens is that as chiropractors, many of these responses are monitored through the mechanoreceptors and normal neurobiomechanical function. And when normal neurobiomechanical function is off, it sends these nociceptive signals to the brain. And this is where chronic nociceptive signals triggers pain, and chronic is what leads eventually to that addictive process, because they are looking for something to fill that. And I'm going to give you an example before we even go into chiropractic and drugs. But let's say somebody was exercising on a regular basis, which is great for them, right? And all of a sudden, COVID or anything else, family issues, and they stop. I'm going crazy. I can't exercise anymore. I'm being a little facetious here, but that is an actual mechanism. We need to try to get into this early as doctors of chiropractic, looking at our patients and our family members to see a behavioral change. And when you see a behavioral change, that's the start of it. And why are you changing? If you were sitting there, Ron, and it was told to me the other day, if I was ever quiet and calm in a meeting, they knew something was wrong. So he would, I was talking to Dr. Bajaj, and he said to me, if that happened, I would come up to you after, go, what's up? I know something's wrong. So if you notice these behavioral changes in people, of your patients or your family, you want to start trying to understand that early.
Yep.
So what happens now, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's great. Because, what you're talking about is triggers, and as these triggers come out, I think that most people, maybe not chiropractors, but most of the public think that, it's only pain syndromes that cause this. Well, you're basically saying that this isn't just about pain. Once you get that reward center in your brain, right, it's stimulated, right, and it's dominant on that level, other triggers can make that happen. And that's why when people come in and go, I've got tremendous amount of pain here, and and yet there was nothing to make that happen, or people don't see anything there, it could be coming from an emotional response. The cascading effect works both ways, up to the brain and the brain to the body, right? And it's huge. It's huge, because this is where that quote unquote addiction comes from, because we know addiction is in the brain, right?
Right.
So it's great.
And they previously have thought that addiction was only genetically based, that there was some kind of genetic predilection for this. And that is the case, but what they have confirmed that it's not just genetically based. It can be chronically occurring over time without a genetic basis. Nora Volkow, who is the head of NIDA, the National Institute of Drug Addiction, has acknowledged that reward deficiency is the prevailing model of addiction.
Yeah.
She's a well-known expert in the field. So reward deficiency doesn't necessarily have to be genetically based.
Right. Well, you know, right? We're down in Miami, you know, doing phenomenal work with addictionology, right? Showing massive changes, you know, with chiropractic care, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just changing that stimulus pattern is what you talked about, right?
Well, sure. Now we're talking about abnormal neurobiomechanical function,
Yep.
which is sending aberrant signals. What we have known, there is no debate on what chiropractors do to help normalize, help balance that system. So when you do that and get better motion in the motor segments, or give an adjustment to a subluxation, which frees up the motion, those signals, those negative signals are either going to decrease or stop,
Right.
which stops that the impulse is going to the reward centers on a negative basis.
Yeah.
So whenever you restore or help to normalize that neurobiomechanical function, you're shutting down the system
Yep.
of the negative cycle.
Yep.
So this goes to play with anything. Now, when you have stress on your body, this theory sets not just on pain, not just on one particular thing. This is overall health of a human being. When we're able to balance the system and then the brain isn't perceiving negative impulses, your whole health is better. Which is why I know we get in trouble sometimes when we say we can help all these things. No, in the particular condition per se, but when your body functions better, it is healthier. And it can fight things better, it can work better, and you're happier and healthier.
Yep. Yep. And I think, you know, what you just talked about, you know, and what chiropractic is pretty much based on and our body's based on is a negative feedback cycle, right? It needs input. It needs to have something. If nothing's coming in, it just won't do anything, right? But when we start putting in, you know, I don't want to say positive, but we start putting in normal neural function, the body starts changing. It ties into Heidi Havoc's research, right?
Absolutely.
You see motion, cervical spine, you know, adjustments, you know, creating motion, creating frontal cortex changes, you know. This is all the things that we're doing with the nervous system. So I get it, and it ties so much. It's just more than opioid addiction, but it's such a big thing that you guys are doing, because from there, you know, the results can be amazing. I know we have to start at some level, and we keep kind of moving up, you know.
And circling back, you know, you know, they're going to say, well, you know, you said it happens when it's chronic. Sure. How many patients do we see are chronic? And chronic is more than 3 months of no response or unresponsive to care. So 3, right? So, all right, great. So let's let everybody wait 3 months. That's silly. Yeah. But if we can get in there before the 3 months, it may never get to the 3 months. So we won't even know who we prevented from happening. But we can definitely show some results of people that are already in that process. Yeah. But the issue is what I related before. Let's get into this early, recognize the warning signs, and help them from the beginning. And that'll help prevent any of this from going on, a significant portion of it from going on. We're never going to be able to stop everything.
Yeah. And I think another point that you brought up, that I just want to add to it, you know, with using chiropractic care is the compliance. You know, when in the medical world, and God bless them, because you know we need medical doctors, but in the medical world, when they give someone, drugs or they give them whatever, a prescription, it's whether the people are taking it or not taking it, whether they're overtaking it, whatever they're doing. In chiropractic, we know what we're doing because they come and see us. And the compliance mechanism that's there as you work with someone going through, that makes a world of difference in the healing process,
Absolutely.
And that's huge.
Non-compliance is the best way not to get a good result.
Absolutely. And and I believe, of course, what we do when we correct subluxations, allow the body to normalize and the nervous system to function at the best of its ability. We know that's what works within the body, but without compliance, we couldn't, like you said, we couldn't get that done. And that's a really huge part of how, the success that we have in chiropractic. And, it's a testament to what we do too. And our patients, as we know, love to see chiropractors, right? So they're coming back. So I couldn't think of a better group to have a study with to be able to show that. So John, I think it's phenomenal. And I just want to commend you, the New York Council, everybody involved, to be able to get into this pilot study, to be able to, we'll see. I'll bring you back on, once it gets, as it starts rolling and you can share with us the changes that are happening. But, these are big. And I just want our audience to know, just to reframe what you said, this isn't just opioids. Yes, it's opioids for the study, but this is more than opioids, right? This is really about the person. And we've always said, prevention, is where it's at, right? Wellness is where it's at. And when we can start looking at people and saying, wait a minute, your behavior is different. You're this, you're that. Let's take a look. That's where we really start making the differences before we get to the fire, right? If it's get to the smoke before the, that kind of thing. So thank you, man. I tell you what, I just appreciate you so much. We go back a long ways. And I just appreciate all you're doing and everything that you do for chiropractic, that you're doing in the state of New York, your whole group. I mean, the New York Council, I've been to your convention probably four times in the last 5 years. And it's just rocking. And it really is the vitalistic group in New York that's really, looking forward thinking and making things happen. I'm not saying other groups aren't, but you guys are really at the forefront there. So thank you, my brother, for all that you're doing.
And I appreciate all the kudos, but again, for you too, Ron, you've been a warrior for chiropractic. I know everybody that's listening knows that, but I just want to acknowledge that. I love and appreciate everything that you've been doing all these years. You're doing such great work at Life West, and not only in Life West when you were in the summit and everything you do. Every day you're tirelessly working for our profession, and I thank you, and I think all the profession thanks you for doing what you do.
I appreciate that, and thank you, John. Any last words you want to say for to our listeners?
Again, I know you reiterated. You stole my thunder from my last line. I'm just going back to saying that this is not just about opioids. It's about the health of our society in general. And when it really gets me when people say, no, you can't do this or help that, or it's not about the particular condition. It's about getting the person as healthy as possible at their level. And if they're at their best, then they can only fight the best they can. And if we can help doing that, that's the answer. And that's been already documented, that better function, structure with structure. So better structure gives better function. And that's what we do.
Absolutely. John, is there a place that we can send our viewers on the New York Council website or anywhere that has has what's going on with the pilot study?
If anybody has any questions or concerns or wants to, they can either contact the office, they can contact me. You have my information. I'd be more than happy to discuss it with anyone.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Awesome. So thank you, John. I so appreciate you being with us today. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in again for another one of our segments of the Life West Leadership Line. We'll keep bringing you key people in chiropractic who are making a difference. And and can shed some light on what's going on in different parts of the country or going on around the world. So thank you. And just remember to keep living your life from above down, inside out, and hugging the people around you and sharing the chiropractic story. So until our next episode of Life West Leadership Line, I'll bid you adieu, and I will see you down the road at our next episode. So thank you so much. And thanks again, John.
Thank you.